Hey, what's up YouTube? I'm creating this video to talk about free will because I'm so sick of hearing people always bring up free will, like when it comes to their god or their gods not helping humanity, and I hear a lot of these, especially, when it comes this I think this more so comes from the drones than it does actual human beings. But I always hear them say that, the reason why they don't get involved in human affairs is because, they want humanity to have free will. It's about free will, which I say is bullshit, because free will is an illusion. If you understand how consciousness, if you understand how consciousness works, if you understand that everything is connected on some level, there's always going to be strings attached, no matter how bad you want to detach yourself from everything completely and be your own god, your own person. It doesn't work that way. You're always going to be somebody's puppet to some extent. There's always going to be one or two strings attached. The goal in life is to detach yourself from as many of these strings as possible, and only then will you be the closest to that God, to that master of life that you want to be. But still, there will always remain a string or two, or perhaps more, So so you make a choice, and there's always going to be influence behind that choice, and there's always going to be an influence behind that influence, and there's always going to be influence behind that influence, and it goes on forever that way. And I think like, I think all this, like, for example, you could compare it to computers. Us human beings are probably like quantum computers, biological quantum computers. All electronics, they tie into the same source, that being electricity. Us human beings, we all tie into the same source. I mean, all biological life forms tie into the same source as well, that being consciousness. So hold on. So the brain is like a computer, it can program. I mean, it can upload information, download information. It has its own hard drive, its own software, its own programming that makes it human. And then, and other life forms, whether they be intelligent or not, that aren't human, have their own, unique programming that makes them whatever they are. And and you know and they all and all these life forms, they're connected through consciousness. So and consciousness ties into all universes. So each one of these quantum computers tie into a universe of their own, So it's kind of like the double slit experiment. Scientists proved that when an atom, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, it's either when an atom isn't observed, and we're all made of atoms, it's in like an infinite number of places at once, or it's not even there anymore, So when somebody doesn't observe me, that means, I no longer exist in their universe. The atom's gone, So there always has to be an observer, a conscious observer, So even when you think nobody's watching you and you're all alone, there's always going to have to be somebody that is watching you. There's always an observer, as long as if there isn't, then you don't exist, then you shouldn't be existing, period. But what gives atoms existence is consciousness. So there's always going to be somebody watching, and there's always going to be somebody watching that person or that thing, and then, vice versa and vice versa, a dream within a dream within a dream, a mind within a mind within a mind. So it's like, it's like that brain cell being compared under a microscope, and scientists done that. They compared a brain cell underneath a microscope, and when it's compared to a picture of the universe, both look exactly the same. So they're saying that, you know, we're possibly in one big giant brain, one big giant you know, being or animal or something, you know. But yeah, so we're just, you know, free will is an illusion. There is no such thing as free will, and you can never be a master at all things. You can never be a god or a goddess. You know, you could come close to being such, but that just depends on how many strings you can cut yourself off from. You know, and that's the goal in life.